Establishing a commission in Washington is a little like the Frio Dockers. Pointless. But I want to take some time to focus on Trump's latest commission into solving the opioid crisis. Opioids are pain relief drugs. They range in strength from codeine all the way up to heroin. In the late 90s, Purdue Pharma launched their opioid OxyContin and a multi-million-dollar campaign to convince doctors.
These drugs, which I repeat are our best, strongest pain medications, should be used much more than they are for patients in pain.
And the doctors listened. But 20 years and $30 billion in profits later, it turned out Purdue had been lying about OxyContin's efficacy and safety. And this is what Purdue had been saying amongst themselves.
Dollars, 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 it's bonus time in the neighbourhood.
They ended up getting fined for all that, but in the meantime, they sold a lot of opioids, and a lot of people died of overdoses. You see, while opioids aren't very good at curing your pain, they are very good at getting you addicted. If you take them for just 10 days, you have a 20% chance of still taking them a year later, and those risks only increase with time. In 2010, Purdue Pharma responded to these concerns with prescription reforms and a new controlled release form of OxyContin. And it did reduce OxyContin abuse, a bit. But then opioid addicts just turned to cheaper, more powerful opioids like heroin. And so heroin overdose rates took off instead. In 5 short years, heroin deaths quadrupled, racing past prescription opioid deaths. Which takes us to today. Americans consume 6 times more opioids than they did 20 years ago, and a massive 78% of the world's oxycodone. And in these states, there are more painkiller prescriptions than people. This led to 52,000 drug overdose deaths in 2015, 2/3 of which were opioids. Those numbers are comparable to AIDS deaths in 1995, to car crash deaths, and to gun deaths, including suicide. And opioid overdose death rates are even higher in states like New Hampshire and West Virginia. And these overdose deaths are surprisingly targeted. They're targeted at white people, for instance, instead of black people or Hispanics. They're targeted at 45 to 54-year-olds, although the 55 to 64-year-olds are catching up fast with a quadrupling of drug deaths over the last 15 years. And this, by the way, is one of the main reasons why middle-aged white mortality in America is now so much higher than in other Western countries. The only good thing about all this is that white middle-aged people dying tends to catch a politician's attention. In fact, the opioid crisis is pretty much the only source of bipartisanship in Washington today. Both sides know victims of opioid abuse, and so both sides want to increase spending on opioid treatment programs. Which brings us to our brand new commission, led by Chris Christie, a man who knows a bit about soul-crushing relentless pain. The Commission on Combating Drug Addiction and the Opioid Crisis will report to Jared Kushner, who'll hopefully be able to solve the opioid crisis at the same time as he's also looking after veterans, broadband, the way government runs, Mexico, China, the wall, all US trade deals, the criminal justice system, and peace in the Middle East. Whoa, what a pain. Stay off the opioids, Jared.